very, very brief introduction, because I am perfectly aware that you are not here to hear me, but rather our speakers, and they have important things to share with you. Thank you all for attending one more webinar of the British Portuguese Chamber of Commerce. And obviously a special thanks to our speakers, Nidia, Tiago, Pedro, and Anna, because you once again are supporting us and willing to share your knowledge with all our members and other participants. So just a brief who's who on today's panel. Pedro Neto is a partner, a specialist in corporate finance with Moneris. Then we have Henriques, also senior consultant for Moneris, Nidia Conceição, associate lawyers at RSA Algarve, and Tiago Marques, the coordinating lawyer for the Employment and Social Welfare group for RSA. They will be the ones that will share their knowledge on the supports that we can, as businesses and business people, get from the government to endure these challenging days. Without further delay, I'm going to pass on the word to Tiago. He will be starting this presentation. If you have questions, please write them in the chat. And at the end of the presentation, we will pass that on to our speakers, or if there is time, give you the word for you to share the questions with them. Okay, thank you very much. Have a great event.
Okay, thank you. First of all, hi to everybody. Good morning. I will.
I'm sorry, Tiago, your sound. There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah. I will try not to murder my poor English and not to give you a headache in the morning. So I will do my presentation on the benefits that the Portuguese government has to all the entrepreneurs and self-employed workers. So we will do the parallel with the workers to the companies, and we'll try to see the benefits due to the pandemic that we are suffering. So I will share my presentation with you. Let me see. Let me try to share it. Let me see where I can. Okay. Let's try to. Okay. And I guess that everybody can see it now. So. Quite okay. So. As the benefits for due to the pandemic nowadays, they are the preview by the decree law number 10A-2/2020. They began to be applied last March 2020, and this decree law has been suffering some new knowledge, new supports to, in this case, to all the self-employed workers and entrepreneurs. So the Portuguese government tried to put at the same pace with all the workers, company workers, the supports that are existing in Portugal. So first of all, we need to do the difference between self-employed workers and entrepreneurs. So self-employed workers, normally it's the kind of people who works to a company. More than 80% of his activity is to only a single company. And the entrepreneurs is the people that has our own business, like a small coffee or a small company. That's the difference. That's why I'm trying to explain this, because we'll see in front that there is a difference in this decree law, because as you can expect, normally a self-employed, as I was saying, normally works only to a single company. So the benefits are smaller than the ones to the entrepreneurs. And this, as already I explained yesterday in Portuguese, now I'm explaining in English. Our labor code already predicts a rule that when self-employed workers that work for a company more than 80% of his activity are in a crisis like we are suffering nowadays, it can apply it to the unemployment allowance that's not predicted to the entrepreneurs. So this is why the benefits due by the Portuguese government are less than the ones due to the entrepreneurs, because the entrepreneurs they have their own activity. They do depend exclusively from themselves. So that's why here the benefits are more or less the 450 euros per month for each self-employed worker, as this is previewing the Article 26 of the decree law. As for the entrepreneurs, the benefits can go until almost 2,000 euros per month, because it will be measured according to the income from the past 12 months. This is preview on the Article 28A of the decree law that we are seeing. Also, we can, to be at the same step as a normal worker, the Portuguese government has also some measures to support the socially disadvantaged, namely when we are in this pandemic situation, when we are sick and need to stay at home, there is also some measures that the government are previewing in this decree law, namely this period of 28 days that we can stay at home and we cannot work. So also our income is granted until 100% if our limit is this 2,000 euros, namely 1,900 euros. This is like the same of 3 minimum wage. But you can see all of this in our presentation that we will share with you at the end, and if needed, I will be available to answer your questions, me or Nidia. And she's in the Algarve, and she will be very applied to ask you to answer to all your answers, or me by phone or email, or if you come to Lisbon. I'm really pleased to welcome you and to enlighten you of your doubts. And with this, I will end my presentation and I'll pass along to my colleague Nidia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tiago. First of all, good morning, everyone. I would like, first of all, to thank British Portuguese Chamber of Commerce for the invitation and for this initiative. It's always a pleasure to work with you, but you know that. So I start to share my presentation. I think technology helped me today. Okay, so today I want to talk to you about measures implemented by the government to assist companies that are in a difficult situation due to the restrictive measures imposed to the economy following the COVID pandemic-19. Actually, the truth is that with the economic effects that have been felt on companies after the first lockdown in 2020, the government decides to implement measures to support the resumption of business and maintenance of their workplaces. With the second lockdown that we've been through, the government decides to strengthen the platform that have been defined initially for these measures, extend the beneficiaries of these measures, and still create some additional ones according to the needs of the economy. Today, we are going to talk about one of these measures, and that's it, the credit lines called credit lines COVID. Okay, so we have to know what are the beneficiaries of these measures. And we have 3 different types of companies that can be benefits of these credit lines. They are what we call the PME, that are micro, small, and medium companies. And the achievement of this qualification depends on several factors, namely the number of effective employees of the company, and the value of the company's volume of business, and the total balance sheet of the company. Just for you to have an idea, for example, a micro company can have up to 10 workers, a small company can have up to 50 workers, and a medium company may have up to 250 workers, okay? After, we have the small mid-caps. The small mid-caps are companies that do not complete the requirements to be qualified as a PME company, but employ has an autonomous company up to 500 workers. After we have the mid-caps, and the mid-caps are companies that do not complete again the requirements to be qualified as PME companies, but has between 500 and 3,000 workers. Okay, it's only for you to have an idea what are these companies and these beneficiaries. Okay. So right now, these credit lines were created specifically to finance the treasury needs of the companies, heavily affected by the economic effects resulting from the pandemic situation of COVID-19. And this is important. They are bank financing. So this means that have to be returned the money. Okay, but they are bank financing with special conditions and with allowed the companies to resume their activity and maintain their jobs. So what were the credit lines created in this situation? We have 2 credit lines. We have a credit line with a state guarantee and a credit lines without a state guarantee. In the credit lines with state guarantee, we have credit lines to support exporting companies of industry and tourism, and we have credit lines to support event assembly companies, travel agents, and tour operators, micro and small companies, and medium companies, and small mid-caps and mid-caps. All these group of companies, to benefit the credit line, have to have a state guarantee. The only one that don't need a state guarantee is the credit line to support companies in the sector of tourism, micro and small companies. Okay. And who can benefit from this credit line? We have lot of requirements, but we have a common requirements that they are the company have to have an activity in a continental national territory, have to comply with the register, with the central register of beneficiary, have to have the PME certificate, have to have the situation regularized in the tax administration and social security, and have to demonstrate that the activity that they do has been severely affected by the restrictive measures applied due to the pandemic situation of COVID-19. We have also specific requirements for each credit lines, okay? And for the credit lines to support industry and tourism exporting companies, these companies have to comply with an export intensity review in 2019 of at least 20%, okay? For the credit line created for support tourism, micro and small companies, these companies have to be licensed and registered with the National Tourism Register, okay? And for the credit line to support events assembly companies, these companies have to have the volume of business in 2019 has at least 30% coming from activity within the scope of setting up events. And we have also for the credit line to micro, small companies, medium companies, small mid-cap and mid-cap. These companies have to have a positive net position in the last approved balance sheet. Okay, and it's important to mention that this requirements don't have to be applied by companies who activity start less than 24 months ago, starting for the date of the respective application. Okay, and nor to the individual entrepreneur without organized accounting. Okay, so right now, we need to know what are the conditions of the credit lines, okay? And in the first 3 credit lines that I'm going to explain to you, the requirements or the conditions are the same, okay? And we start with the credit line for industry and tourism exporting companies. We have a maximum amount or 4,000 euros per job, and this amount have to be checked in the specific case of the company, because we have a lot of limits, but it depends of the type of company that is going to benefit of the credit line. We have also a possibility to convert into a non-fundable grant. And in this case, we can have 20% of the financing value that can be converted in non-refundable. We have a mutual guarantee. And for the micro and small companies, we have to have a guarantee up to 90% of the outstanding capital. And for the medium, small, mid-cap and mid-cap companies, we have to have up to 80% of the outstanding capital. We have a grace period until 12 months, and we have a maximum transaction term until 6 years. Okay, and like I said, for the credit lines to support the events assembly companies, the conditions are the same. Okay, the 4,000 euros per jobs, subject to limits, it's important. The possibility of have a non-refundable grant, but only for the 20% of the finance amount, the same mutual guarantee, and the same grace period, and the same maximum transaction period. Okay, and for the credit line, and it is the same conditions for the credit line, not the same condition, sorry. In this case is different. It's different, and I would like to explain to you that we must remember that when the COVID-19 pandemic was installed in our country, the travel agencies were struggling affected by the absence of tourism and the absence of movement of the people. These companies were forced to cancel trips and have to compensate their clients. Has also to issue some vouchers that could be used on future trips. I am explaining to you these little things because the maximum amount that these credit lines have, because in this particular case, the amount, the maximum amount is equal to the proven amount of refunds to be delivered by the company. Okay. We have also the guarantee, and is the same conditions that the last ones. The grace period in this case is until 24 months, and the maximum transaction term is again until 6 years. For the micro and small companies, the credit line have maximum amount for the micro companies is 5,000 euros, and for the small companies we have a maximum amount of 250,000 euros. We have also the guarantee, and the guarantee have to go to until 19% of the debt capital. We have also a grace period until 18 months, and a maximum transaction term until 6 years. For the medium companies, small, mid-cap and mid-cap, we have a credit line to medium companies that goes to 1.5 million euros, and for the small mid-caps and mid-caps 2 million euros. We have also a guarantee, but in this case is until 80% of the debt capital, a grace period until 18 months, and the maximum transaction term until 6 years. And the list, not the list, we have the credit lines for tourism, micro and small companies. And in this particular case, we have a maximum amount that goes to 750 per month and per worker. And for also for micro companies, we have 20,000 euros. And for the small companies, we have 30,000 euros. We have a grace period until 12 months and a maximum transaction term until 3 years. And the last question, and more important, which entity should these companies contact to access the credit lines? For the credit lines created for support the industry and tourism exporting companies, event assembly companies, travel agencies and tour operators, micro and small companies, medium companies, small mid-caps and mid-caps. In this particular case, these companies have to contact the national banks, because the national banks were the entities that that deal with all these credit lines and can help all the companies to benefit them. So in the particular case of COVID lines created for sport tourism, micro and small companies, these companies have to contact the Turismo do Algarve. I think we all know this entity. For today is all I have to presentate. And thank you for your attention and your presence here. And I will be available to answer all your questions if is needed. And I think I'm going to pass to Pedro Neto.
Hello, good morning for all. First of all, I want to thank to the British Chamber of Commerce for this invitation. My colleague Anna will do the presentation, but I want to explain just one thing. At the moment, we have only 2 programs to support the investments or to support the gap of money that the companies have because this pandemic situation. It calls the program Apoiar. And the program we have now in the Portugal 2020, it's the production support program. At the moment, we are in the end of the support of Portugal 2020. Maybe until July we have some. Yeah, okay. This slide. Okay, thank you, Anna. We have Portugal 2020. Normally, it ends in December of 2020, but we have Portugal have some money from Portugal 2020 that will do some programs until maybe July of this year. After we have the new program, Portugal 2030. Portugal 2030, it's similar to Portugal 2020 about internationalization, qualification of the business, investigation, and with some support to productive innovation. The Portugal 2030 will focus in economy 4.0 and environment. I think it's the main photo of these support programs, and I will pass to my colleague Anna to do the presentation about Apoiar program and the production support program. Anna?
Okay, thank you, Pedro. Let me share again the presentation, just a second. PowerPoint, no. Sorry, I'm having a difficult. Okay. Okay, I think you can see now. Okay, so Pedro has already given here some introduction.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Could you please put it on full screen so it's more visible? It's easier to read, please.
It's not on full screen.
No.
I don't understand why. Yesterday.
Below, on the bar below, there is a small. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Now it's okay?
No, it's not turning
No.
into full screen for some
I'm
reason.
not sorry. Let me shut down this and do it again because I think something's wrong here with the presentation.
If not, that's okay.
Okay, just a second. Let me try again. Okay, how about now?
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I was telling here what I'll mostly be talking about is the program Apoiar, and later on I will give you a preview of what is Programa de Apoio à Produção Nacional, or in English, National Production Support Program, because these are two different kinds of support. The program Apoiar supports the company's cash flow, and the amount allocated is a non-repayable grant in full. The National Production Support Program provides support for investment. The support allocated is to invest in certain items that we will see later on, and only part of that support is non-repayable. Our team is able to follow these processes in particular because this requires a framework very strict in terms of eligibility criteria. So it is necessary to respond to a number of criteria, and for one reason or another, sometimes an enterprise can't apply. It is then necessary to first check this framework before proceeding with the application or some investment project. It is also important to highlight that the programs have deadlines and financial appropriations defined, and that's why Apoiar was terminated, because they exhausted the financial allocation. So what this means is that there needs to be some speed accessing the programs. Of course, this does not mean that you do things on your knee, as we say in Portugal, because for these applications it is necessary to be careful in doing them, and you have to pay attention to the respective obligations and eligibility criteria. Therefore, do not do it in haste, but try to do with maximum speed in order to not run the risk of the applications being suspended and not being able to apply anymore. So regarding the program Apoiar, I'll just give here a preview of it, because it was just this past weekend that the Minister of Economy, he had an interview with Diário de Notícias and TSF, where he gave note that new measures will be launched in March, since it is expected that the situation we are currently going through will continue until June, and it's still going to be a difficult time for companies to recover. One of the measures he mentioned will then be the revision and strengthening of the program Apoiar, and this program has had already two phases. At the initial phase, when it was disclosed in November, the beneficiaries were only micro and small enterprises, and had as eligibility criteria having an eligible economic activity code, or CAI as we say, under Appendix A to the respective ordinance. This program was originally created to support companies that were most affected by the restrictions related to the pandemic, and in this context only a few activities are eligible, notably in the area of tourism, retail, advertising, some services. So it is a matter of checking this Appendix A. The support consists in a non-repayable grant, which corresponds to 20% of the value of the break on the invoicing in 2020. And this first ordinance stated that this break was calculated having only as reference the first 3 quarters of 2020. Also, companies should have positive equity in 2019, and the situation in terms of community funds, tax authority, and social security should be regularized. And here you can check the support limits for micro and small enterprises. The January ordinance came to allow access to SMEs, or PMEs as we say, micro, small and medium enterprises, including individual entrepreneurs with organized accounting, and also not SMEs provided they have a turnover less than 50 million euros. It also introduced some more economic activity codes that can be checked in the Appendix A. In terms of the eligibility criteria, they remain the same, with the exception for the positive equity. If they are not positive in 2019, it is possible to present a midterm balance sheet where the capitalization is demonstrated in order to cover these negative capitals in 2019. The drop of 25% in the second ordinance already refers to the whole year of 2020 and not only to the three first quarters. The regularized situation can be made until the approval of the support. In the first phase, this had to be done at the date of the submission of the application. Between the submission of the application and the analysis, normally the period is 20 working days, sometimes a bit more. And the limits there were also updated. Here is also given the possibility of an advance for the first quarter of 2021 because it was already known that confinement would last. So this advance is applied as follows. The incentive calculated for the fourth quarter of 2020 is doubled, and you have here the respective limits for each type of enterprise. Now, with this review and reinforcement they talk about, and we don't know what's coming, so we're not going to guess here, but surely the financial allocation will be strengthened, of course, to allow the opening of new applications. And as for the review, it may be related with the eligibility criteria or eventually the support limits. Initially, the program Apoiar was deployed in two sub-programs, Apoiar.pt and Apoiar Restauração, support for catering sector, being that it turned out to be a complement for these companies that could apply for Apoiar.pt, and then would have here an additional support regarding the weekends that they were closed or that had to close earlier. As said before, these applications were suspended on February 5th, and probably at least Apoiar.pt will be reopened. Also, with that second ordinance, what also came to do was add here two more modalities within the program Apoiar, the support for rents, Apoiar Rendas, and the simpler support, Apoiar Mais Simples, that I will explain next in more detail. So the applications are submitted at Balcão 2020. The rent support is open since February 4th, and the simpler support is open since January 28th. Here we need to take into mind that these two sub-programs, let's say, have an endowment much lower than Apoiar.pt. So at any time, these programs can also be suspended, and hence one should be careful in submitting the application as soon as possible. So support for rents and the simpler support have similar characteristics to those of program Apoiar in terms of eligibility criteria and beneficiaries, except for in regards to Apoiar Rendas, where you have to be a tenant in a lease for non-residential purposes, communicated on the finance portal, beginning on a date before March 13, 2020. And for which at the date of application there is no cause of termination of the contract or this one is ineffective. The supports are again non-repayable and are divided here in two ways. So when presenting a drop in invoicing between 25 to 40%, the support is setting 30% of the value of the reference monthly income up to the maximum limit of 1,200 euros per month and per establishment for 6 months. This reference monthly income is the value of the electronic income receipt issued on the finance portal in December 2020. For companies with a drop of more than 40%, then the support will be 50% of the value of the reference monthly income up to the maximum limit of 2,000 euros. In terms of obligations, they are also transversal to the program Apoiar.pt, here with an additional point, which is the obligation to keep for a period of 2 years after the final payment of the support, the proofs of payment of rent to landlords carried out in the first half of 2021. The simplest support, Apoiar Mais Simples, was created for individual entrepreneurs without organized accounting. The eligibility criteria are similar to the previous ones, except for the one that states that the entrepreneur must have employees at the time of the application. The rate of funding to be allocated is 20% of the amount of the company's reduction in invoicing, with a maximum limit of 4,000 euros. And here is also assigned an ordinary general support for maintenance of the activity in the first quarter of 2021. So the clearance is done in the same way and has here a limit of 5,000 euros. I wanted to just give your note for another support program that exists at the moment, but as said before, this one is for supporting investments that the company can do in terms of machinery and equipment, computer equipment, quality and digital services, certification systems, etc. This program was created in a sense of recovering from the pandemic, mainly to the industry and tourism sector, using the last funds of PT 2020, Portugal 2020, and is intended for companies align themselves with the digital transition and the green transition, and in a way that also stimulates national production and reduces the external dependence that some companies have in terms of production factors. Beneficiaries are micro and small enterprises, and with this program, it is necessary to pay attention for the respective warnings of applications, because the program is divided by several regions, North, Center, Algarve, Lisbon, and then within each region there are still other divisions in terms of municipalities and so on. So the eligibility in terms of economic activities, rates of funding, etc., they can also differ from one region to another. Again, Moneris can help with the framing of these programs. And I think that's about it. Here are some procedures that you can also check regarding the certification of SME. Made with the IAPMEI, the register at Balcão 2020, so you can submit the applications. I think the slides will be made available later, so you can check this later on. That's all on my part. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anna, and thank you all. So now that we've been through all of our speakers' presentations, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to open the mic for that person. Susie, you had put a question on the chat. Do you want to maybe do it to our speakers?
Hi, good morning. Thank you very much to all of the presenters. It was very, very interesting, but to be honest, not surprising. Most of what I heard and what's going on is the typical, borrow it now, pay it back later. It puts companies in debt. We've already got huge problems. Is there no breaks for companies? Like tax breaks, social security breaks, lowering of IVA so that we can actually encourage trade to take off. Yeah. And as Thiago Marx said, how about contributions? They can only be deferred. They've got to be paid anyway. What's the point of deferring when they have to be paid? Is there anything else that the government is offering small and medium businesses that will address these points?
Okay, thank you, Susie.
Yes, Pedro, go along. As I wrote, as for now, the only beneficence they can have is a deferring in time, just to have some more cash flow.
Yeah. Unless you want to borrow money, or unless you've got something that is a new green energy, then basically we're all in the same boat as we are at the moment. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for our speakers? Please note that this webinar has been recorded and that we will be sharing it with you in our YouTube channel very soon. And also, we will be sending the speakers' presentations to everyone later today or on Monday.
Could I just say, Adriana, that in response to Susie, I don't know what your business is, but we've had all the grant money that's been spoken about there, all the credit lines, all the grant money. I received it within a week of applying for it, so quite a bit, and I think there's more to come of grant money. And then you've 20% of the last two extra credit line loans, which will come back which will not be repaid. So I actually think that, certainly from my point of view, it doesn't cover the amount of money we're spending or burning, but there's been quite a lot of grant money. And even from some of the loans, there's a 20% reduction in the capital you pay back, not on the original one. So all the things that have been said today, we already have all that money. We've had it for a month, quite a month, a few weeks, the last lot. But I think that the government's doing a good job, and I'm waiting to see what Portugal, what Balcão 2030 is going to bring, and expecting that within the next month or so they'll be throwing more money at us. Because to be honest, they couldn't seem to be, if you applied for it, they couldn't wait to give it to you. My first loan took 6 months to come through because I was a bit late in applying for it, the initial credit line. But after that, everything we applied for within days of it coming out, and we got it within weeks. So I think it was good. That's it.
Okay, Sue, thank you. So we have one more question here from Philippa. Philippa, do you want me to read it or do you want to do it yourself?
Yeah, it's just a quick question on the back of what Sue was saying there. But she's obviously got some experience on what the banks are charging interest rate rise on the credit lines.
Actually,
they're very low. I mean, I think the first loan, the biggest one, was was just over 1%, and I think the next two, which were the ones that are based on the number of employees, so it was over 100,000 in total. I think they might have been about 1.5 or 1.85, so very, very low. Yeah. I mean, it's almost free money. I mean, it's nothing. Yeah. Compared to what.
Yeah, actually, like I said, it's special conditions, and the example of that is the loan interest, like I said, we have to check because the interest depends of the credit line that you want to benefit, but like Sue said, it is a very long interest. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions for our speakers? No? Okay, good. Oh, Philippa, go on.
Yeah.
It's more regarding the layoff scheme. So something obviously we've not touched on much here, but am I right in thinking, do you only qualify for the layoff scheme if your company is actually closed, or is there also a qualification scenario where you can show a downturn in turnover?
If your company is closed, the layoff is automatically.
Yeah, but is there another one? Or...
Yes, there is. I can tell you, because my company, I think I've got now average between 5 and 7 people on 100% layoff, and then about 10 or 11 on 15%, on 85%. So we have to work, we have no income, but we're working, moving bookings and doing admin and changing things for no income, which might come in 2 years' time or hopefully before that. But yes, so we have layoff even though we're open, and with a difference, and we can put people on and off and increase their hours, reduce their hours every month.
It's not called layoff. It's called a restart of the activity. it's where you can suspend your workers until 100%, and you work with that margins. So if you have a little bit of activity, you can put your workers like 50%, 20%, whatever you want. And the rest, the government pays to you until the limit of 3 minimum wages.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I mean, we've had our staff on varying degrees of layoff according to what the government said, because well, first of all, it was 66%, and then it was 77, then it was 88 that they had to be paid. Then they had to be paid 100, but the government would support the 100. So and whatever percentage of hours we had them working, then that was a reduction in the support that we got. And we've only just started to pay 50% of the employer's Segurança Social until about, when was it? I don't know, October, November, we were exempt from Segurança Social as well, employers. So there's lots available.
So thank you, Sue. Thank you, Tiago. Any more questions from our speakers? Okay, then. Let me then thank you all for being here today. Again, thank you so much to our speakers and sponsors Moneris and RSA, Nidia, Tiago, Pedro, and Ana. We will be making the presentations available, as I said before, to you later today or on Monday, as well as the recording of this webinar. And keep an eye out for our events calendar, because we have a lot of events going on all the time on many different subjects that I'm sure it will interest you. Okay, so that's it. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you again soon.